RCAs are zip tied in place. Speaker wire is elbowed over and in place. Both of them have been covered. Remote turn on, as I said, runs into this wire here, comes out the other end, and it has our cool blue shrink wrap on it so that it can go into the harness that we have yet to make for the radio. Our speaker wire is the same. This will run underneath the passenger seat where we will attach it to the harness we built. The next thing I need to do on this before I get to power and ground is the subwoofer wire, and I have made that up. I have added some Tech Flex to 12 gauge, and the other end is also made up with some 5-star heat shrink and shrink wrap as well, red and black. I like to use 12 gauge primary wire as the 12 gauge speaker wire, mainly because it's way more flexible inside of this tubing. Gives me a better run, and seeing how this has to go all the way through the car, that's kind of what we're looking for. This is going to come from underneath here because it has to run to the same place that the power wire does. Red goes there, black goes there. Push those into place and tighten them down. I would like to make one zip tie here to hold it in place. And that gets us almost close enough to where I can feel, ooh, we're almost done. I need a ground to come out, I need a power to come out. I need to drill 2 holes for those to go through. That gets me my 2 holes. Next, I need to grab them out of the kit and put some flex loom on them. The joys of getting towards the end of wiring this up is that there's a ton of crap on your workbench and it's frustrating. But we're almost there, which is nice because then I'll be able to put all this stuff away. And it just kind of accumulates. And as you're moving through it, it just seems like, yeah, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And the next thing you know, you just have piles of tools everywhere. It's just one of those things that, yeah, it's always been that way. Ground wire is covered in Tech Flex. The power wire is covered in Tech Flex. Bring it up through the hole here in the bottom, over into place. Tighten that down, and we have our first wire. Power wire comes in. Tighten that down. That means all our wires are now where we need them to be. There's no more wires to screw in. There's no more wires to screw in. The trim can go back on. And this can now get into the car. So join me in the car, and we'll start running our wires. Fernando took out the factory grommet and replaced that with our own grommet. We didn't have to drill anything, it just snapped right into place for our 4 gauge. And now it is time to get the amplifier into place. These wires are gonna go off that way, and the rest of these wires are gonna come in through here like you see. But the first thing I need to take care of is the ground. And if I pull this guy up here, and you look at that area right there, you can see there is a nice factory ground point located right there. So I've shortened this wire up, and I'll be installing that ground into that spot. And then once that is in place, I can start running the rest of these wires to where they go. This is the sub wire, which will go back that way, and this is the power wire, which will go up that way. Front bolt, the other bolt for the factory is back here, mounted in place. The wiring comes up here into the center console. I need to jump over on the other side and get the wiring for that plug attached. Fernando mounted the base knob right here, so that just needs to get plugged in. This is our RCA that needs to go up into the dash, but before I do that, I need to go over there and connect the rear speaker wires up to that plug, so I want to do it all in one shot. Fernando's going to be dealing with a fuse holder. As soon as he's done with that, we'll take a look at it. For the most part, I can fold this seat down into place now. Yeah, it's nice and firm. Gotta love it. I guess I need to go to that side of the car. Everything is soldered into place. We have the rears, we have the fronts. I'm gonna add some tape to this joint, and then I'll zip tie up into here and run it up into the dash. Underneath the seat, like I showed earlier, the carpet is all still here. It just kind of folds under from the factory. So I can hide this harness and you'll never even know. Like, you can use this to store, you know, whatever, French fries, you know, extra change. It'll all fit in there nice and cozy, and you won't even know there was a factory amplifier under there. It's pretty cool. All right, wire comes out of the hole. We put the 3M strict cock on the inside and the outside, and of course there's the plastic grommet in there. Comes along the master harness in the car, all zip tied in place. Fernando built his standard S-style bracket. This one I like. It's simple, it is effective. It attaches to the factory bolt. Our fuse holders just snap off, so he can easily get to the battery and replace it without having to worry about all of this and disconnecting it and moving it out of the way. And that's it. Good job, Fernando.
Yay.
It is time to wire up the harness. I have my laptop. I have the RRs, which is what we're using. This is just the regular RR. We're gonna need the HR, which stands for harness ready, NI1. You don't have to have the harness ready. The only thing why this is more convenient is that it allows me to plug in this, which is the Ken one. There's a Pioneer, there's a Sony, there's an Alpine, and these just plug into one another, and it saves time. I don't have to use this harness here to connect to this. It just streamlines the whole process. I also need an antenna adapter, which is the NI6. In the RR, I'm just gonna need the data harness. As far as that information goes, when you flash the module, it will take you to this page here. And on this page, this is for the Xterra. It shows us we have to hook up certain things, but then there's all these harnesses across the bottom that we don't have to hook up. This is the most important thing. We get these guys that'll bring these in and they're like, oh, I don't know why it doesn't work. And it's like, they have all these extra connectors plugged in. They didn't look at the instructions. What are the odds? So it's showing us right here that this data connection is all we need, which is this one cable here. And then there'll be 3 other harnesses plugged into the brain. The OBD2 needs to get connected, but only it's gonna be connected to the black connector. The white one will not be connected. White, yellow, blue over here will not be connected. Bluetooth module underneath passenger seat. We know it's not underneath the passenger seat, so we're not gonna worry about that. There's a green harness here and a white harness here that need to be connected. And then of course, either plugging it in or hardwiring it, whichever one works for us. And because we have the Ken one, we don't have to worry about it. For me, I want to get all the harnesses that I don't need out of the way. So I will need the OBD2, set that aside. I won't need my main harness, set that aside. I don't need C, I don't need A, I don't need B. I don't need the 2 connectors with the RCAs on them because we're not retaining that Rockford system. This is the D, which is the Bluetooth harness, which it does show it on its need. I'm gonna set this aside because there still may be that module somewhere in here that this will need to plug into. We just know it's not underneath the passenger seat. And I won't need the audio cable for the RR, that in the box. So those are all going to the side. According to the instructions, we don't need this white cable here. And there's only like 4 or 5 pieces of tape on here, so it's easy enough for us to remove this and we can get that white cable out of this, and then we'll retape this. That way it can run over to the OBD2 and zip tie into place with the rest of the wiring. It won't look out of place with just this brown and red wire. Pin extraction tool that we used earlier in this install. Same basic idea. We'll get this out of here. And we just need that black connector right there. Fernando's anxious to wire this in, so I'll pass this off to him and he can tape it up for me. Here you go, buddy. And that gets us over to this, which is the main harness. Plug in my data connection, grabbing our main harness. So the convenience of this is that I can easily now just do this, plug this into the radio, the car, the RR. Everything is done. It has a minimal amount of tape on as needed. It uses this new V style connection so that this brain can be tucked over here, the radio can be over there, and it's a pretty sweet deal. It has the connections here if I was going to be using the RCAs or not, or I could just cut these and hardwire them into the amplifier if need be. So it's a pretty solid piece. I like what they've done. It has the connections here for using their CMOS camera that does the different view angles, power antenna output, so we can plug that into this guy here. It's a pretty well thought out piece. Ground wire coming off the end. I am going to modify this just a little bit. There are a couple things that this doesn't have that I wish it did. One is there's no external power connection if I'm going to be doing a dash cam or backup camera, as well as the remote turn on is way down here over by the factory radio plug. I'm not really feeling that. That means I'm going to take it apart and do a little bit of changing to this, and that's going to take some time. So with the blink of an eye and a snap of a finger, and this is what it looks like once it's retaped up. Kept the same V shape, added in my accessory wiring, so I have an accessory, a constant 12 volts of ground, and my remote turn on over here instead of down at this piece here. Plug is all taped up, added in the antenna adapter, OBD2 port is over here. Now here is the one thing that has kind of got me perplexed. According to the instructions, it shows the backup camera coming off of the main harness and plugging in. As we know, it told us we didn't need any of these. D, which it shows us we need for the Bluetooth, which we still don't know where that is or if we need it or not. We'll find out in a minute. There's nothing to plug this into, which is kind of odd. Most of the time these instructions are spot on. In the car it has the C harness, so I'm wondering if it was just a typo and they didn't include this as needed. That means we got to get this into the car and figure that out. It does need to be grounded, so we do have to screw this into a ground. Let's hop over into the car and we'll do a little bit of troubleshooting and find out if that's what we need. If it's what we need, it's no big deal. It's super simple. On the end here, it has this blue connector. The blue connector is the camera power, which is located on this blue connector. There's also this white connector, which is data, which may or may not be needed, I don't know. But that is the one easy thing that this just works that way. Let's get into the car.